inflammation occurs when the body thinks that it's under threat. A common example of this is when you get a cut, so bacteria will enter the open wound, cells will be damaged, and your body will then go in to first get rid of the foreign particles, and then second, it will start to repair the damaged cells. So I like to think of this inflammation process kind of like a war. So inflammation is the war on our bodies, and it requires certain elements or soldiers to start that repair process. And when we're thinking about arachidonic acid, which is part of the omega-6 family, it's like the arachidonic acid is the boy, which under attack, the inflammation or the war, turns into a soldier to fight. And this fighting causes all sorts of unrest and turmoil. So it's not that the soldier creates the war, it's just that when the war occurs, the boy is there to be ready to turn into a soldier to fight. So if you can think about this, like if you reduce the war, the boy will not turn into a soldier and not help so much disruption take place. So when we're thinking about reducing the war on our bodies, there are our everyday things where we get cuts, we get unintentional injuries, and these things, it's really necessary for inflammation to take place. When we exercise, our muscles will tear and inflammation will take place to then go and repair the muscle. And that's just part of everyday life. Another part of daily life is metabolism. So when you eat your food, it gets converted to energy. That's metabolism. That energy then goes into the cells to help carry out their functions. But when you eat too much food, more than your body requires to stay alive, you need to store this as fat. And that process involves metabolism, which then produces more free radicals. There are things that we could avoid to reduce the war on our bodies. And these things include exposure to pollution, smoke, chemicals, pesticides, stress, and eating foods that irritate our digestive tract, so things like allergies and food intolerances. All of these things are increasing the amount of inflammation that needs to happen in our bodies, and they're not a necessary part of daily life. So the bottom line is, it's not true that omega-6 causes inflammation, and this is a huge misunderstanding. It's just that it actually acts more like an ingredient to help us fight. And so our strategy should therefore be to actually reduce inflammation, and omega-6 and omega-3 families actually have fatty acids that combat inflammation as well. And this is something that we talked about in the previous video on omega-3 and 6 metabolism. So I mentioned one of the major causes of inflammation in the body results from normal metabolism, and that produces free radicals. So let's take a look at what a free radical is. So here on the left we have Mr. Free Radical. He is a chemical species with an unpaired electron. See how there's a pair here and there's supposed to be a pair here, and that makes them balanced. But because he's missing one, then he can steal one from somebody else. So here is a molecule in your cell, and it has a balanced number of electrons, but then when free radical comes along, it can pull and steal it off, thus making this guy unstable and sad. And this reaction is like a chain reaction, can keep happening until we bring in things like antioxidants. We've got here antioxidant. Mr. Antioxidant has a different configuration of electrons where they don't need to be paired. This dislocalization of electrons allows this antioxidant to then donate one of its electrons, thus making this stable without becoming unstable itself. Antioxidants can be found in many foods, but also the body does make its own supply of it. And the body has other mechanisms to deal with free radicals. Seeing that free radicals occur so frequently, it's important that the body does have its mechanisms. But what happens when you bombard your body with unnecessary things like the pollution and smoke and things like that? That's when the body it can't cope, and that's when you get damage, and that's when you get symptoms. So let's take a look at how free radicals can end up in your oil. You're probably familiar with when oil goes rancid. It kind of smells a bit off, and this is actually oxidation. So what causes oxidation? There are three things that you have to consider. Sunlight. And what happens is that light rays, photons, they hit the oil and can join a carbon next to a double bond. And this reduces the double bond to a single bond. And this changes the structure. So now inside this bottle of oil, there's a free hydrogen running around and that can bump off and go join other things. This free hydrogen is a free radical, and it can cause a chain reaction and disrupt a whole ton of things. Heat will also similarly weaken the bonds and change the structure. And this is how you get things like the trans fats because of the structure changing. This is why people say you shouldn't cook with unsaturated fats such as olive oil, because when you heat it, it changes the structure, and that mutant structure can cause havoc in your body. It's better to cook with things that are saturated, they have higher smoking point, and this will be things like butter or coconut oil, for example. The other factor that introduces oxidation is oxygen itself. Oxygen oxidizes, creating free radicals. And so when you open your bottle of oil, it's good to close it quickly. So how do we combat this? Well, we can use antioxidants, and a lot of oils, if you think about oils coming from, say, plants or seeds, the seed is there to grow a plant. That's its function. The oil is there so to give a burst of energy to grow that seedling. And because the plant has this oil in it, it needs to protect it from going off. So it already has natural antioxidants such as vitamin E inside the oil to protect it and to mop up any free radicals. So manufacturers will often add extra antioxidants to increase the shelf life and to preserve and to keep the oil fresh. And there are two types that they can use. There's the natural type, which is found in your body, and there's synthetic forms. So it's always better to go for the natural forms. The synthetic ones are cheaper, and these are things like BHT and BHA. So I just want to end on a quote from Udo Erasmus in his book called Fats That Heal and Fats That Kill, which is a fantastic book if you want to learn more about this topic. And just to give you an idea of like how many free radicals there are in the body, he suggests that there's more than 4 times 10 to the power of 28. That's 4 followed by 28 zeros. And I love the way he describes it. Free radicals, they travel at the speed of light and zip from place to place in our bodies. So a free radical might be described as a subatomic, freewheeling, loose-living electron bachelor playing the field for a mate to settle down with and willing to break up other pairs to find that mate. And I just think that's such a fantastic description. So I'll leave you with that.